By January 1st, 2025, almost all entities operating in the United States must report their beneficial ownership to the US Department of Treasury as required by the Corporate Transparency Act. To start, this is not legal advice. For specific issues related to your companies, please consult your attorney or another professional. If you don't have an attorney and you need one, you can reach out to us at the contact information below. Why is this happening? Why do you have to report this beneficial ownership? Congress enacted the Corporate Transparency Act in an effort to assist government agencies, including the Department of Treasury and criminal enforcement agencies around the country, to combat the use of entities like limited liability companies, corporations and trusts being used to commit financial crimes, including fraud, funding terrorism, and also money laundering. The idea is that if every entity that is not otherwise exempt has to register their beneficial owners or face criminal and civil liabilities, which is the case here, then agencies would be able to identify who is actually behind the entities committing these crimes, but it's putting a requirement on non-criminal enterprises that previously did not exist. And by January 1st, 2025, it is expected that all entities that are not otherwise exempt will register. Who has to report? As I said, anybody who's not exempt. What are exempt entities? Well, public companies, banks. There's 23 types of entities that are exempt. One very interesting one is large employers with 20 or more full-time employees that have a brick and mortar location and earn over $5 million in revenue or gross sales per year. And most nonprofits are exempt, because they're all regulated by other government agencies. Nonprofits, for example, are regulated by the Internal Revenue Code, public companies by the SEC. So, but most entities in the United States are small. They're mom and pops, they're moms, they're pops, they're friends. And therefore, most have to comply with this law. But what is a beneficial owner? Well, a beneficial owner is either someone who owns 25% or more of the ownership interest in an entity, whether that's direct or through a variety of entities that, like a trust and other LLCs, or it's a person who exercises substantial control over the company's decision makings. That can be a CEO who has no ownership interest, or if it's a situation where a company has 10 members, but one of them is the manager, then that manager of the company would be the beneficial owner. This is absolutely the most difficult part of this process, is identifying who the beneficial owners are. Sometimes it's going to be easy. It's a single member LLC that the owner, the one person owns 100% of the membership interest and they are the only ones involved and they directly own it. Or it could be 4 people who have 25% and everybody is considered a beneficial owner. But then there's these other issues. Somebody who has 25% of the company, but it's through indirect means of a trust and other LLCs. So for example, if a band has an LLC where 4 members of the band each own 25% and they are directly owning it and they're beneficial owners, but then that band has 4 other LLCs, one for touring, one for merchandising, one for IP, one for the property where their studio is located, and those four sub LLCs are owned 100% by the band's initial LLC, then they would be indirectly owning 25% of each of those other four LLCs. Additionally, you don't actually even have to own 25% to be considered a beneficial owner. In fact, you can own 0% and be a beneficial owner in the case of a chief executive officer or chief operating officer or chief financial officer who is making the decisions for a company. This can get tricky. If you are unsure of who the beneficial owners of an entity are, consult a professional for guidance. Failure to comply with this CTA requirement can expose your entity and individuals involved to both criminal and civil liability, and it's pretty significant. Once you've identified who the beneficial owners are, gather the information that is required for the report. You will need for the entity the legal name, the tax ID number for each beneficial owner. You will need the legal name, a date of birth, residential address, and the government ID, as well as a copy of it. So if you're filing for a company that has multiple beneficial owners, you will need to get this information from them because you only file one report for the entity. You do not file for each beneficial owner. And this is where you go to file it. It's a website at the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And here is a short guide on how. So now you're ready to file your beneficial ownership information report. So you will go to get started. You can download a PDF, fill it in, and then upload it, but you have to have Adobe Reader, so why bother? You can do it easily online. Prepare and submit. You will choose which type of filing. If you're watching this video, my guess is you're doing an initial report, but you can come back to make updates in the future by correcting the prior report or updating it if there's a new beneficial owner, for example, or if something happens and the company gets to is no longer required to file the report. They are now exempt. You will then hit next, automatically fills in the date. They give you a little notice about privacy and paperwork reduction. Then you fill in the information about the reporting company. You have to have the legal name. If you have any DBAs that you're using, you would put that in here. Your tax ID number, it can be either an EIN, SSN, ITN, or a foreign entity's tax ID number. If you are a single member LLC, you may just be using your Social Security number, and that is what you would choose here. You put your tax ID number here. If you are a foreign entity using your foreign tax ID, you would say what country here. Where was your entity first formed or registered or incorporated? If it's not in the United States, you choose that. But if it's the United States, it's here. And then you say, where was the company's first primary jurisdiction of formation? So if it's Delaware, but that's where you choose. If it's Georgia, California, whatever your primary location, your primary jurisdiction is. If you are formed in a tribal jurisdiction, you would choose that. You must have a principal place of business address that you put here. When you're done with this, you go to next. Then you go to the company applicant. Any entity that was formed, organized, or incorporated prior to January 1st, 2024 will hit this box. Anything after January 1st, 2024 must report the company applicant information, which is the person who organized or formed the entity. And then once you've fill this in, it's next. Then you hit beneficial owner. If you are filing this as on behalf of a minor child, you will click this button. If your beneficial owner has a FinCEN ID, you will fill it in there. If your beneficial owner is an exempt entity, you will fill that, you will check this box. Then you will have the legal name of the individual who is the beneficial owner. If you don't have a FinCEN ID, you will have to fill in all of this information and upload a copy of their government ID, issued ID. You will do this for every beneficial owner the company has. So if there's 5 beneficial owners, you'll do 5. If there's 10, you'll do 10. There's no limit to how many beneficial owners a company or entity can have. It has to have at least one. And then once you've submitted all of them, you hit next, and then you go to submit. The person filing on behalf of the entity will put their email, they'll confirm their email, first, last name, agree that everything that they're submitting is true, correct, and complete. Hit that, and then acknowledge they're a human, and then you hit next for the final time, and they will issue a report almost instantaneously. Every good movie needs some bonus content. If you are going to be reporting yourself as a beneficial owner for multiple entities, or you are filing on behalf of multiple entities, there is a shortcut available so you don't have to enter your own information or the information of someone who has multiple beneficial ownerships over and over. You can create a FinCEN ID. To do that, you would go to the FinCEN.gov BOI homepage. You would click to create a FinCEN ID. I can't show you how to do it because I've already done it, but you would go and you would sign in and click this button. And to create the ID, you will need the same information you need for a beneficial owner. You need a copy of their ID, you need the, the residential address, and that kind of information. But having a FinCEN ID will make it significantly easier for you if you have to report for a lot of entities or you are a beneficial owner of multiple entities. If you need additional guidance, of course, reach out to us at info@pragerlaw.us. Please follow us on your favorite social media platform or platforms. We can be found at Prager Law most places.